Hello there and welcome back to the railway. In today's video I'm going to be showing you my first attempts and trials with using ballast. So I've got this small section of MDF with 6 practice rails on it. So what I'm going to be doing is just trying to ballast them and seeing how I can do with them. As you'll see from this video, I do multiple attempts. Some of them go quite well, some of them don't go quite as well. So the ballast that I'll be using in today's video is the Woodland Scenics Fine Ballast. And to do the ballasting, I'll be using the acrylic box that you see in front of you. This ballasting piece of equipment I got off eBay a number of years ago, so I can't give you any links to it. But it's very useful, it does the job that it's needed to do. So as you can see there, I've just used it to spread the first track there with ballast. I'm just using a utensil now just to bang off any ballast off the tops of the rails. Now, what I did find I had to do with when I was using the ballast spreader is quite often I was then needing to sweep a lot of excess ballast off the middle of the tracks. So what I tried with some of the later variations that I tried was a much quicker movement with the ballasting box, so it then gave a much thinner surface to it, so I didn't have to sweep as much off. But then equally, I did it a few times where I then moved it far too quickly and it didn't put enough ballast down. So it's just trying to strike that balance of not too much and not too little. This is the part of the video where the woes begin. So you can see me here trying to use the spray bottle to dampen the ballast ready for applying the PVA mix. Now for one, I do have the nozzle way too close for what I would then use later, but this nozzle on this in particular bottle didn't work very well at all. It was coming out as almost a jet stream. Now I did try turning the cap on the top, trying to adjust it, but yeah, none of that worked. So you'll see later on in the video I use a different spray bottle and that works much better. But for now I just thought I would plough on and see how it went. So for this part of this first attempt here, as you can see, it started getting quite messy very quickly. So for this first track I just wanted to see how the gluing itself would work. As I say, this is the very first attempt I've ever had with gluing or doing any sort of ballast work. So as you can see here, it went absolutely disastrously. So I was pouring the glue on. Now, the main thing for me for this bit, for the learning process, was showing that the water and soap mixture worked. Because whenever I applied the glue over the top of that area, the areas that were damp, the glue soaked straight in. As you can see though, wherever I applied the glue that wasn't on that, it just ran straight off and just formed bubbles of glue on the surface. So that was then something I used, as I said, to learn from for the future attempts that I did. So for this next section that I'm showing you here, as you can see, I have now got a new spraying bottle. This worked an awful lot better than the other one had done. So once again, I'm just doing the same process as I had before, so just pouring the ballast into the ballast spreader and moving it across the track. For this attempt, again, I did a slightly different method, so I put a bit more ballast into the ballast spreader than I had on the first one, I think. And then as you can see here, I did a lot more forwards and backwards movement to try and get an even coating. What this ended up with was the edges of the ballast, almost like the ballast, where the ballast shoulder would be. These turned out a lot thicker than on the first attempt. But then the one problem I did have, which you'll see later on, was that only the top layer of ballast had actually dried in place. Once I was happy with how the ballast had been spread across the track, I then grabbed the spray bottle and put some pieces of grey board around the edge of the track to make sure that any excess spray was contained in one area. You can now see me start to spray the ballasted area with the new spray bottle, and it works much better, giving a much more even coating, making the whole surface damp. So this made it a lot better for the glue, as you'll see here, to soak straight into the ballast rather than staying on the surface. So as you'll see there, as soon as the glue mix went down, it soaked in almost immediately, which showed the importance of having the correct spray bottle to dampen the ballast ready for the PVA water mix to be applied. As you can see, the glue has now dried overnight, So I've also done an extra attempt over here. So you can see this was the first attempt. You can see there's quite a lot of ballast that's over the top of the sleepers. This was the quite messy one where I used the other spray bottle. So I knew this one wasn't quite going to turn out well. I was just kind of using this one as a gauge to see how the glue worked and make sure it worked consistently, because I wasn't sure if I needed to add any more PVA to the water and glue mix. I don't think I do, seeing as how this feels all mostly dry, apart from like you've got a few bits on this one, but that is just probably because of how it all congealed together when I sprayed the water mix on with the other bottle. But as you can see with the other two examples, it's worked a lot better, especially with this one. So you can see there it's all perfectly solid and hardened. On one side I did put an extra layer of PVA to see if it made any difference. It doesn't seem to have made too much of a difference. So what I'm going to do now is just go over it with the hoover and get up any loose bits, and then what I'll do is I'm then going to see how easy it is to then get some of these bits that are on the sleepers, see how easy it is to get those off. Now, one thing that I have noticed under further inspection, I think you'll be able to see it from this bit of footage here if I just zoom you in. There we go. So this section here, I just thought I'd have a look at. So the top of this, or everything on the top, is all perfectly firm, which is what I was happy about. But certain parts of it do feel a bit squishy, which it could be that just needs longer to dry. So for this side, I'm going to leave for another couple of hours, possibly another day, to make sure it's dry. But I had a look on this side over here where you can just see. Now, if I just move that out of the way, what I did was I went in from the side like this, went underneath, and what I found was the top layer was perfectly glued, but the underside was all loose. Now, I don't know if that's how the glue mix is supposed to work, but I thought that it would, with it having soaked through, I thought everything underneath would be solid and clumps together as well. But it seems to be with this trial that I've done, you can just about see there, as I'm scraping away at the underside, getting all these loose bits of ballast from underneath the surface. So the surface, you can see, is rock solid, but underneath I'm getting out all of these loose bits. So I'm going to leave that to dry for a bit, which I have now done. So this is possibly a week or so later, and as you can see I've done a few more attempts with some different tracks. So as you will see, I have removed some of the ballast along the edges of some of the rails. Now this was just me going along and seeing what bits of ballast were firm and which bits weren't. So some of the ballast had dried all the way through. That's what I'd found with some of the thinner layers that I'd done, which I'll show you a bit more detail of my best attempts that I'd done, which I'm really happy with. But on the attempts where the ballast shoulder, as you were, was a lot deeper and thicker, it formed a very noticeable crust on the top surface, like a layer, where it all glued together. But then, as you saw in that earlier section, the underlayer hadn't dried or glued at all, so it was all completely loose. Now this meant that it came off very easily. So what I'm going to try for some of the other ballast attempts that I'll do is that I'm going to try a thicker PVA water glue mix, but I'll have to show you that in another video. So this was the result of the first few trials that I had done. So this was the best attempt that I did. This one was achieved by using slightly less ballast in the ballast spreader, and as you can see, it's worked very effectively. There's a much more even coating, and the ballast shoulder, I would say, isn't too thick. So I'll show you some different pictures as well, because I also did some attempts at painting the sleepers before I ballasted. Now, at one stage, I was thinking of painting all the sleepers around the layout, because I thought it would make a huge difference. But as you'll see from these pictures, the difference it made was very minimal. So I'm not going to be painting all of the sleepers along my tracks. But what I shall do instead is I shall use some weathering powders to add some more detail and variation to the ballast and the sleepers along the tracks. So that's bringing it to the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed watching. I know it's possibly been a bit boring just watching me do some ballasting. But if you have found it interesting or entertaining, please don't forget to like the video and indeed subscribe to the channel. It's free. And if you've got any suggestions on ballasting tips for anyone, just let us know down in the comments section below, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.